Hello and welcome to Lexitecture, a podcast about word origins and histories. My name is Ryan, and in each episode my friend Amy and I bring a new pair of words to share their stories with each other and you. You can find our past episodes and the occasional blog post on our website at lexitecture.com. Follow along with us on Twitter and Facebook at Lexitecture, and if you really like what we do, you can support the show at patreon.com/lexitecture. Today's episode, Awkward Demonstration.
Let's talk about some words.
Yes. Would you like to take it away? Because I did all the talking last time and people are sick of me.
I do not believe that's true for a second. And if it is, frankly, people who are sick of Ryan, what are you talking about? Never be sick of Ryan. Never.
Well, thank you.
Are you about to make that your ringtone?
Yeah, I might.
That would be quite funny. I have a feeling Becca would hate me. Okay, so the word that I am finally able to talk to you about with backup from the Oxford English Dictionary. Hooray!
Hooray! I
tell you what, you do not realise, I thought I was pretty enthusiastic about having library card access to the OED online. I feel like I was quite excited about that when it happened, but That is nothing compared to the excitement that I have now that I have it back after not having it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So to very quickly recap, if you don't care about my Facebook feed, the library in Dundee where I live, the Central Library Service cut their access to OUP publications online because their budget had been cut. And because it costs about £3,000 for an institution to subscribe to the OUP resources, which are awesome. The OED is obviously the one that I'm interested in, but it does give you access to things like the Oxford Dictionary of Music and
a huge
there's
collection, yeah.
so many great resources. And I totally understand that when budget cuts happen, it's hard to decide what services that you're going to get rid of, and presumably not many people other than me were using this service, so they got rid of it. And I put up a Facebook post saying I was very disappointed about this, and then I was contacted by a local journalist who wanted me to express outrage and alarm. However, my outrage and alarm was tempered somewhat by my very, very excellent friend Tracy Wilson, who I hope won't mind that I'm using her name in this podcast. I'm sure she won't. If she does, my bad, Tracy. But she is a librarian at the National Library of Scotland, and they also wonderfully offer access to the OED online via their subscription services. So
sweet. Yeah,
hooray for librarians. They are literally the people who will save us all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, so The word that I was going to talk about last time without dictionary support is awkward.
Sweet.
AWKWARD. Now, one of the things that I really love about the word awkward is, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot think of another English word that contains the cluster of consonants WKW.
I was just thinking that, I have no idea what that's...
It's one of these words that even when you know you've spelled it correctly, your brain says, nah, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of words like that. I find that with rhythm. And since I became an English teacher, I have to double check alliteration every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Because children spell it incorrectly. And you see it written incorrectly so many times you think, hang on, doubt myself much, Anyway, so awkward, which the OED correctly points out is an adverb and an adjective. The word has stayed reasonably stable. So in Middle English, awkward, AWKEWARD, or AYKEWARD, or the rather wonderful OWKEWARD.
Oh, nice.
Awkward. But generally speaking, the forms are not all that crazy, considering that spelling didn't exist. And the OED gives the definitions. Firstly, in the wrong direction or in the wrong way. And that citation comes from 1530. We then get sense B, upside down or hindside foremost. Now that citation comes from 1340.
Hindside foremost.
Hindside foremost,
That's my favourite way of saying ass backwards I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, I'm sure I went to see a band called Hindside Foremost back in my youth.
Absolutely.
We then have in a backward direction with a backstroke. I think sense D might be my favourite. One word, a squint.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I had so much fun researching this
squint.
word. There's just so many great, quirky, odd words to come out of awkward,
that's the
which I
best.
believe is pretty, opposite. We also then have, in sense B, the adjectival sense, an obsolete definition, turned the wrong way, averted, backhanded, not straightforward, or oblique. We then come to sense 2, froward, another fantastic word,
Yeah.
untoward, perverse in conduct, and passing into cross-grained, cantankerous, disagreeable in behaviour, and so on. This is also given as an obsolete sense, but to be honest, I think that when people talk about a person as being awkward, this is often the sense that that sense is perhaps not as obsolete as the OED would have us believe.
Yeah.
We have then sense 3, untoward, unfavourable, adverse to one's course, both literal and figurative. This is also given as an obsolete definition. And then sense 4, of things, untoward or unfavourable for one's purpose, ill-adapted for use, clumsy in operation. And the first citation we have of this comes from 1695 in J. Woodward's Essential Natural History of Earth. The methods they used of agriculture were so awkward and tedious. And I think we start to get into the sort of commonly used modern usage of the word. Something that's awkward is it's not quite what you want for that given situation. Then we have sense 4b of persons lacking dexterity or skill in performing their part, clumsy in action, bungling,
I love
and
bungling.
the phrase the awkward squad,
Ooh.
which is quite lovely. This is again a very, very old, 1530, awkward, left-handed gauche. Then on to sense 5, ungraceful, ungainly in action or form, uncouth, and this is of things, action, speech, firstly. Sense B of persons. And then we get sense 6, there's a lot to say about this word. Sense 6A of things, embarrassing, inconvenient. And this definition makes me think of, the way that people, sort of internet era people will go, awkward, embarrassing, inconvenient, like, ugh, I wish this wasn't happening, I don't like it. Of persons, sense 6B, not at one's ease or embarrassed. 7A of things, not easy to deal with, requiring cautious action, or even euphemistic for rather dangerous.
Okay.
And we have from 1860 J. Tyndall, Glaciers of Alps, we let ourselves down an awkward face of rock. Now, euphemistic for rather dangerous coming into play here. I like to think that J. Tyndall, as many climbers and outdoorsy type people are, I like to think he was an absolute madman, and that when he described an awkward face of rock, what he meant was we all could have died at any second.
Yeah. Oh, I assume
Yeah.
so.
We then have of persons dangerous to meddle with, as
Ooh.
in describing a character from Shakespeare, although it doesn't say which character. He is an awkward customer when his confidence is betrayed. In other words, don't mess with this guy. And then lastly, definition 7C, given the awkward age, the time of life when one is no longer a child and yet not properly grown up.
Right. Well, that makes
And
sense.
that is first cited in 1895 from the Windsor magazine. She was at what ladies call the awkward age. So lots of definitions going on for this word.
Yeah.
While it hasn't shifted massively, we do have quite a few obsolete definitions, although it feels to me as though even the obsolete definitions have never really quite gone away.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
What Etym Online has to say about this word really made me very happy indeed. So, here's what Etym Online has to say. Mid-14th century, as an adverb, meaning in the wrong direction, from awk, that's A-W-K, which means backhanded, plus the adverbial suffix weird or ward. The original sense is obsolete, and Etym Online lists as an adjective turned the wrong way from the 1510s, meaning clumsy, wanting ease and grace in movement recorded by 1520s. Of persons, the meaning embarrassed or ill at ease is from 1713s. 13s? Surely 1713. Related awkwardly. Other 15th to 17th century formations from awk, none of them surviving, were awky, awkley, and awkness.
Oh,
And
awkness.
this, yeah, so much awkness. And this, of course, led me to awk, which I enjoyed a great deal. So awk is from the mid-15th century, and the sense of turned the wrong way. From the Old Norse afugr, A-F-U-G-R, turned backwards or wrong or contrary, from Proto-Germanic afog, which itself comes from a pie root. From the root apo, meaning off or away. Now you know how we love a bit of pie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So
the
tasty.
apo, which led us eventually to awk in the sense of awkward,
Yep.
forms all or part of abaft, ablout, after, apanthropy, which is a pretty wonderful word,
Yeah.
aperitif, aperture, apocalypse, apocryphal, Apollyon, apology, apoplexy, apostle, apostrophe, apothecary, apotheosis, awk, awkward, ebb, eftsoons, of, off, awful, and overt.
Wow.
And so the branches of the family tree for this word turn not so much into branches as a bit of a thicket. And there's still another half of the word to look at. How
Yeah.
amazing. So while it is unfortunate that we do not describe the awk factor that people possess, instead just saying that they are awkward,
Yeah.
the word part of the word very much tends towards this sense of direction. So Etymon gives it as adverbial suffix expressing direction from the Old English weird, toward, or literally turned towards.
Right.
From the Proto-Germanic werda, variant of pi, werto, to turn or to wind, from the root wer, to turn or to bend. The original notion is of turned toward. Now, where is a pi root that we've come across before, because where formed the basis of the wonderful talk that Kevin Stroud gave
Yes.
at Harvard. And he traced the sense of the word through the ages, as he does in History of English, eventually coming to Hereward the Wake, and by a very interesting, entertaining, and as we always say, intellectually satisfying journey.
Yeah.
Took us all the way to George Harvard, whose surname comes from that Hereward the Wake sort of inspired surname. However, this root has 4 different senses. So the sense that Kevin was talking about, sense 3, as given by Etym Online, the pi root meaning to perceive or to watch out for. And this leads us to words like steward, vanguard, warden, award, aware, all of these different
And
things.
that's where that connection with loaf and lord
Yes,
comes in.
that's right.
The loaf word, yeah.
However, there are 3 other senses for this root.
Okay.
We have firstly, meaning to raise, lift, or hold suspended. It forms all or part of aerate, aeration, aerial, aerobics, aorta,
Oh, of course.
aria, arteriosclerosis, artery, malaria, and meteor.
Wow.
So once again, the thicket takes another turn that makes you think that tools might not be enough to get rid of this. You might need to kill it with fire.
Absolutely.
And we haven't even gotten to our true awkward root yet. This brings us to sense 2. She says, desperately trying to find it awkward in the list and coming up without it. Yeah, we were sense 2. She says, being almost sure.
Almost sure.
Yeah, sense 2.
That was even
Listen to
surer.
this.
Okay.
Listen to this list of just entirely beautiful words.
Okay.
This made me so freaking happy. Right. Proto-Indo-European root, forming words meaning to turn or bend.
Okay.
It forms all or part of adverse, anniversary, avert, awry, controversy, converge, converse. Sorry, not converse as in to talk, converse as in the opposite.
Right.
Convert, diverge, divert, evert, extroversion, extrovert, gator, introrse, introvert, invert, inward, malversation, which,
Ooh.
yep, you guessed it, is the evil,
Oh, man.
the evil equivalent of conversation.
That's so awesome.
Obverse, peevish, pervert, prose, raphy, reverberate, revert, rhabdomancy, rhapsody, rhombus, ribald, sinistrors, stalwart, subvert, tergiversate, transverse, universe, verbena, verge, vermeil, vermicelli, vermicular, vermiform, vermin, versatile, verse, version, versed, versus, vertebra, vertex, vertigo, vervain, vortex, warp, weird, worm, worry, worth, worth, wrangle, rap, wrath, wreath, wrench, rest, wrestle, wriggle, ring, wrinkle, wrist, writhe, wrong, wrath, and wry. Just to remind you, there are two further senses of this word and two further groups of cognates. But my goodness, isn't sense 2 just wonderful? So because this list of words, it made me so very happy, I decided to have a look at just a couple of the cognates. And because of the way that my brain works, I immediately went for the words that were unfamiliar to me. So the first of these was Rafie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hadn't heard that word before, but I felt as though I had kind of heard that word before.
Okay.
So I looked it up in the OED. God bless the OED. And I discovered that the definition given here is, from anatomy and zoology, it's a seam-like line or ridge, especially between the two halves of a bilaterally symmetrical organ or part of the body. So specifically, a zone of decussating fibres and cells in the medial plane of the medulla oblongata and pons, which are structures, in the brain.
Yeah.
So this is the Rafie, I keep getting the pronunciation wrong, I had to look it up, Rafie nucleus. And this rather beautiful word comes from the Greek Rafie or Rafie, meaning a seam or a suture. It's cognate with the word raftein, to sew. And this is the same root as all of these RH words, which look immediately very, very Greek.
Yeah.
And from those we had rhabdomancy, rhapsody, and rhombus. Now, I don't know about you, but rhabdomancy?
Yeah.
What a word.
I want it.
You were about to say, what does it mean?
Yeah,
I'm about to tell you. Okay. Don't worry. I like I say, I've had so much fun looking at this. So, rhabdomancy, noun, this is coming from Etymology, 1640s, it means the use of a divining rod, especially to discover ores or underground water. From Greek rhabdos, which means a rod, a wand, a magic wand, fishing rod, spear, shaft, a staff of office, a rod for chastisement, twig, stick, plus manteia, which means divination or oracle, as in any word that ends in mancy, necromancy for example.
Yeah.
And then this kind of melted my brain a little bit. Obviously, as you look through the list of cognates for where, that very long, quite exciting list, there are words that seem as though it's impossible that they could be related etymologically. But it hadn't really struck me until I saw this entry. Greek rhabdos is from pi, where. And I'm looking at these two thinking, zero letters in common.
Something's not right.
How has this happened? Something's not right. So the base of roots here given is meaning to turn or to bend. And the Greek noun was used to represent Roman fasces, as in that bundle of sticks that gave the fascists their name.
Right.
So I did a little bit of digging into how, where, kind of changed through the ages to bring us all these very, very different words. And what I found in this particular sense, we have, in the 7th group that's listed of derivatives and cognates, we have the root werb. So werb, W-E-R as it was, plus a B, or werb, W-E-R-B-H, to turn or to bend. Now the B-H starts to feel a little bit more Greek to me. And we then have warp, from Old English, weorpan, to throw away. So we have werpen, warpen, or werb. And then verb, you can see how verb appears from verb, as in reverberate, from Latin verber, whip or rod.
Okay.
Verbena, as in the plant, so that's a sacred foliage. And then it says here, 0 grade form, WRB. And this is as close to a clue as we get as to how, where became rhabdo, as in rhabdomancy.
Yeah.
So from WRB, we
To
get to,
RH.
I suppose, RB, which might in Greek be more generally RH.
Oh, yeah, okay, maybe.
But yeah,
That's really
you have
interesting.
to take quite a stretch to get there. And yeah, I felt like it was a bit of an awkward transition from one place to another, which of course brought me back to all the wonderful ways that we can use
Pretty perfect,
awkward.
yeah.
All the incredible words that you can discover just through getting a little bit awkward,
Yeah.
and how fantastic it is to learn about words.
That's awesome. It's weird the things you find that when you look at them and you have them sort of pointed out, it's like, well, of course. But I never would have, like, if someone had said, make a list of sort of directional words, you know, you come up with backwards, forwards, toward. I never would have done backward, forward, and awkward in the same.
The best one that I found in terms of words that have that word prefix, suffix, excuse me, is arseword.
Yeah.
And that's right there in the Oxford English Dictionary, and Etym has an entry for it. Etym states that it is backwards from around 1400 from arse and word.
Right. Yeah. Well, that all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I don't know about in North American English, but we often talk about, certainly in Scotland, getting things arse ways up.
Okay.
And so that I suppose had a slight sense of arse word, but I've never heard that word used in that particular form.
Fantastic. Very neat.
So, awkward.
Satisfying. That's
Very.
a fantastic. Boy. Yeah, what a thicket. My word, I think, is sort of has a similarity to it in that its construction is not often thought of as being one of a prefix and a root in the same way that awkward usually isn't. You don't usually break it down that way. So my word is demonstration or demonstrate.
Ooh, nice.
And for the definition, I looked it up in Smith's Synonyms Discriminated, and I'm just going to use his because he's
Smith.
awesome and it's good. So according to Smith, to demonstrate is to show as the result of argument or scientific experiment. Demonstration is planned or purposed showing through media specifically chosen or adapted to the purpose. It is to give clear or ocular proof. So that's the thing we'll use for demonstrate and demonstration. The earliest recorded uses of demonstrate were in the early 1500s in English. So this is a good time to re-point out that when we talk about things like the earliest uses, you know, in the first instances of a word in the language, we're using the OED, and so it's obviously first written use is the unspoken rule here. So especially when it's like there's a couple of decades here and there, chances are it's impossible to tell which one actually came first. There are interesting things you can learn for which one people decided to write down first. But anyway, all that aside. So the earliest attestation is 1509 of demonstrate, and it's actually as an adjective. So as in a thing having the quality of having been demonstrated, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, so you would talk about the facts demonstrate, as opposed to like the facts proven or the facts as shown. You'd say the facts demonstrate. So it would be an adjectival use. The verb demonstrate wasn't written down until a few decades later in the 1540s, but there was an earlier form of the verb which was just demonstrate. I don't know. Demonstrre. And that was at the beginning of the 1500s as well, alongside the adjective. This all comes from Latin. It comes from demonstratus, past participle of demonstrare. And like I said, it's not a word you often think of as having a prefix, but it has that prefix de. And so
Okay.
in English, that prefix of D usually means something being undone or reversed. So you think about
Okay, like demotivate.
defrost,
Sure.
dethrone, de-escalate. The other form that it's in is in the DIS form. So you've got, disarm, disavow, disgorge, those things.
Cool.
But the original Latin prefix, and in this one I got to play with another ebook that I tracked down somewhere, which was a etymological dictionary of Latin, which is way out of my league most of the time. So when I find something that I can actually use it for, I'm really excited. And so in this one, I was actually able to dive into it. So in Latin, the prefix de had a meaning of down, off, away, from, among, or down from. So you can kind of see how that would become the reversal or undoing prefix, coming down from or away from. But an extended use of this prefix in Latin still had that down, but it was down to the bottom or entirely.
Okay.
So you'd have, if something with the D prefix, the D, the DE, is just basically stands for totally or completely.
This is,
emphatic.
for some reason, this is making me think of the wonderful, wonderful Joan Armatrading song, whose title I do not know, but which contains the lines, down to the ground, down to the ground. Anyway, a small diversion via Joan Armatrading, always worth checking out.
Yeah. So that's the D in this one, in this particular case, is that to complete. And so the actual root of the word is this monstrate or monstrare, meaning to point out or to show. And so the construction is a fairly straightforward. It just means to completely show or to totally point out or to utterly prove or whatever, which is sort of where Smith goes with his giving clear and ocular proof based on a result of argument and proof and demonstration and all the rest. So
I do very much love the phrase clear and ocular proof.
Yeah, me too. That's what sealed it for me. I was like, that's it, I'm using this. In the for those following along with their home copy of Smith's Synonyms Discriminated, it's part of the entry under show. And it sees all these various different things that are quote unquote synonymous with show, and he's working his magic discriminating those. Now, so this monstrare bit comes from the Latin monstrum, meaning divine omen or wonder. And this is where we get the word monster.
Now, I've just had a little tinkle of Catholic remembrance. My mother would be so proud. I was raised Catholic, but I am no longer a practicing Catholic. But as a kid, during I can't actually remember what it's called, the adoration of the divine sacrament, something along those lines.
Okay.
And basically, as a kid, this really, really sucked because you had to go to church, and there was no singing or talking or parts or otherwise, kind of structure to what was going on. There was a shiny thing on the altar, and you knelt down and you prayed silently, and you observed that the shiny thing was there and that it was important. And the shiny thing was, in fact, a container for holding a communion host that had been consecrated.
Right.
And the container is called a monstrance.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Perfect.
And a monstrance is, it's there to show off the sacrament, I suppose.
Yeah, to indicate or to point out a divine omen and all the rest of it. That's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's where we get the word monster. And because the early English meaning of monster was a malformed animal or human.
Okay.
And when animals or people were born with birth defects or other sort of deformities, as it were, that was considered to be a particularly bad omen, predicting misfortune and disaster coming up. And so that's why they used monster, because they thought their worldview was such that this was a thing, the purpose of which was to point out, was to bring
something
bad tidings.
That wasn't shiny, yeah.
And so this was a monster because it was a sign or an omen, particularly a negative one, an evil omen.
Nice.
So and
thus we get gods and monsters.
Yeah. And so that's where we get monster. Now the other part of this is the sense of show or point out, and obviously demonstrate never had that negative connotation to it. It was always just that sort of neutral showing, pointing out, pointing to, whatever. But an interesting little side thing, again, I dug this up in that etymological dictionary of Latin, is that a derivative of, or the monstrare is a derivative of moneo, meaning to remind or tell of. So that makes sense. So we're going further back purely into Latin etymology now. But
this sounds so very wonderfully oral tradition.
Yeah.
Everyone gather around and listen to the bard.
And this is where we get...
That's amazing.
This is where we get words like premonition or admonition. That mon is from moneo. And also monument. As a monument is something to remind or to tell you of.
Yeah.
And so that's what a
beautiful.
monument is. This also gave the title of moneto or monito, probably moneto, I would imagine, to Juno, the queen of the gods.
Oh, okay.
In Roman mythology. And so moneto was sort of a title of hers. And her temple...
It totally sounds like an X-Man.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. 100%. Her temple was in just physically where it was situated in Rome, was very close to, if not adjacent to, where they kept and processed precious metals into coins, which is why we call them money. Because
oh my goodness!
So money is still connected to monster and to demonstrate through Juno's role of being a sort of a source of wisdom and foretelling and an advisor kind of role. And also where we get monitor from, someone who monitors. But that's all where it all comes together. So that M-O-N, whether it's money or monster or demonstrate or premonition, it's all about pointing to and telling to, and that's where we get demonstrate, to fully explain and fully point to and totally show.
That is absolutely wonderful.
I was pretty happy with that last part. I was really excited I was like, money? No way.
Well, yeah, but when you started to talk about moneo, as well as, the medieval part of my brain, pre-medieval part of my brain, getting excited about the lute playing and tales that were about to be expounded for the village's delight, I also started to think, as in money, maybe not, maybe we'll find out. That's I love how the sense of the word for a concept that is, global, universal, quite important, came from nothing more than proximity to this beautiful concept of godliness. What are we going to call this stuff? Well, there's that temple to Moneto over there. Yeah, cool, let's call it that.
We make it up by the Moneto temple, then why not?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Sometimes etymology is just about convenience.
Absolutely. It's as the discovery of the word money, because I may have at some point in the future come across money as a thing to look up. But so far, in the course of looking up completely different words,
so much
I've
more
managed
excited
to
to get
completely
somewhere.
satisfied with the etymology of both money and currency, which came up in a episode back in the midst of time when I was looking up the word cursive.
Yes.
But yeah,
that was a long time. Well, I was just thinking about serendipity, which was the very first word of my very first word of the very first episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've had an absolutely serendipitous journey looking at demonstrate.
Yeah.
Clear and ocular proof.
Clear and
ocular proof that this is still fun and we still love it.
Absolutely. Clear and ocular proof is also a t-shirt, by the way.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah.
Satisfying academic noises.
And that's it for another episode of Lexitecture. To get in touch with us about something you heard this episode, you can email us at words@lexitecture.com. You can also follow along and talk to us at Lexitecture on Facebook and Twitter, and at Lexitecture Podcast on Instagram. For back episodes and the occasional blog post, visit us at lexitecture.com. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.